I just felt like music is kind of my best friend that's always been there. And specifically songwriting in this case, it was a really good handhold for me. And there's songs that I've written about it that will never see the light of day, but they helped me process. And ultimately, that was the best gift, that music gave me. It was just the ability to process what had happened.
Sometimes it feels like the world is a mess. I don't belong. With glittery dresses and so many messages, what is what? I try to stand up, I try to stand out, but I still fall. Then I remember one simple lesson that changed it all. Shine the way you were made to shine, and try to be one who doesn't hide, because I know what's right. I can be that light.
That beautiful song is I Can Be That Light, written and sung by today's guest, Sara Cenatiempo. She actually won an award for this song, and during our interview, you'll hear her share some of that story. You'll also get a sampling of a couple of her other songs, and I know you'll find them just as moving as I did. You'll find links in the show notes to explore more of her incredible music. And before we get started, a quick reminder, I'll be speaking at the Divine Word Summit this October. It's an online event created to help Latter-day Saint women see themselves the way God does. I'd love for you to join me. Registration information is in the show notes. Hello, welcome to New and Everlasting, the podcast finding covenant joy in everyday living, and I am your host, Amy Beck. And today I am so excited to introduce you to Sara Cenatiempo as our guest. And Sara, will you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Sara Cenatiempo. I'm first and foremost a mother of 2 children and a wife. I'm also a music teacher. I teach piano, voice, and music composition, and I'm also a songwriter.
That is so fantastic. So I believe from the information I read about you, I really loved the idea that you were weaving together about your career and covenant joy, or just like your covenants, like how intricately intertwined those are. Will you just start off with elaborating on that?
Yes. So I think like if I look back at my life and look at kind of the biggest pattern that I've seen over and over again, it's that, everything works for your benefit. And even when it feels like you're getting chopped down or things didn't go according to plan, because you're keeping that covenant and you're studying the course, it always becomes better than what you wanted it to be. And I think that's like my biggest lesson through all of this and, staying on the covenant path. And not only does it become what you want it to be or more than what you wanted it to be, you have a peace and a trust in getting to that destination, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I don't know. With younger kids, it might be hard to keep up with "Come Follow Me," but
Yes.
this week's lesson is the saints are being driven out of Missouri, and the Lord starts the section off with, "And all of this will be for your good," and it's like that really hard knowledge to chew on, and just
Yes.
be like, "Okay, I have faith in this. I'm
hmm
gonna hang on."
It's the lesson nobody wants to learn. And it's funny, we do our Come Follow Me. We actually have these little cards that kind of just outline the main theme of the week. But then my kids and I also read the Book of Mormon every morning, and we just do 3 verses. I almost said measures. That's how you know I'm a musician. 3 measures. Um, and we're talking about Nephi, and they're in the wilderness. And Lehi's like, we're going to go into the wilderness. We're going to stay in the wilderness. And I'm like telling my 9-year-old, can you imagine if I told you this? Like, listen, I have this vision. We need to go. And it's for the greater good, but we're in the middle of the woods. You had to leave everything behind. Like it's the toughest lesson for people to learn. And we might not be in the woods, but we might be facing, just as difficult battles and trials. And we got to trust. We got to keep going.
tell me about your music career. I think I saw recently on social media a Grammy nomination.
Hopefully it's a Grammy nomination.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're hoping.
a perspective nomination.
It's a perspective nomination. So one of my songwriting clients, his name is Dr. BJ Fogg, and he's a behavioral scientist at Stanford University. He actually wrote a book called Tiny Habits. He's quoted in the famous book Atomic Habits. A lot of his research is in there. And he hired me and Shauna Edwards to write children's music about habit making. And so Shauna and I each kind of wrote, I think we each wrote about half of the album. And we finished the album last year. And now Dr. Fogg has hired some PR guys to get this album out there, and they're submitting it to the Grammys. And so we're just trying to market it as much as possible and get it into the hands of voters and hope for, at least a nominee, but it would be amazing to have a Grammy win, of course. So that's kind of the most recent thing.
Okay, wow, that's fantastic. Is that something you ever thought you would be able to say?
No, I have watched the Grammys and really like all music award shows my entire life. Like, I love watching it. I love seeing other musicians' stories and kind of how they got to where they are. And it just, I don't know, most of the time I leave very inspired after watching those. And to be like, in this position, it's not, it's children's music, but it's still Grammy worthy, I think. But to kind of be in this position where I could potentially have one feels surreal. It feels so, so amazing.
Well, I will keep my fingers crossed for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It helps to work with incredible writers like Shauna Edwards, for example. She's amazing.
Oh, what a great opportunity. How exciting.
Yeah.
So I have to apologize. I asked you to tell me about how you got into your music career, and I just like totally skipped to the last thing I saw online.
That's
So
okay. I know that
I'll
was
let
the
you
top.
answer. I'll let you start at the beginning.
Yeah, that's great. So I grew up with 6 siblings. And one thing my mom always told us was like, you're gonna learn piano. Until you can play all the hymns, everybody has to learn piano. It was a requirement in our house. And, I have 5 brothers and they're all very athletic. So they're very good musicians, but they were more focused on the sports thing. And I am not very athletic. So when I got into piano, it was kind of just like brushing your teeth. You had to do it. But as I kept getting into it, I hated it. And my whole goal was to learn the hymn book as quickly as possible so I could quit. Well, when I was 8 years old, I won like my first piano competition and I won like $200. So for an 8-year old, that was like a huge deal. And I was like, maybe this is actually kind of fun. And so I just kept going with piano. And as I got older, I started to notice, like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this. And, I was always at the end of our recitals, and I started to pick up on that. And then my teacher was like, I don't think I can teach her anymore, and sent me to a higher up teacher. And she worked with me for a while. At one point, I was working with 2 teachers. When I was 16, we moved to Idaho, and my mom had me working with the BSU president of piano, or I don't know if he was like a professor. I'm pretty sure he was the president of piano, though. And he wanted to take me on as a student, but I just was like, I don't want piano to be my life. I got a little nervous at that point, but I kept taking lessons. I kept doing like small competitions, festivals. And when I got to college, I kind of had the choice to really go for it with piano or to do what I've also always wanted to do, which is teach elementary school. And I decided to do my elementary ed degree, which you probably didn't see coming in this story. Did you see that coming? I like grew up wanting to teach. So I did my elementary ed degree. And when I had my internship teaching 5th grade, I noticed like I would always be making up songs to help my students learn. So I'd make up a song about math, I'd make up a song about grammar. And I actually even wrote a class theme song for my class called I Am a Star. And one of my professors heard it and heard about it and wanted me to perform it at UVU's education convocation, so like the actual graduation. So they invited me and my class to come perform this song. And that's when I was like, I really like writing. And because I had been classically trained, I had a lot of tools to help me write, which is something I tell my students when they want to just learn, Taylor Swift. I'm like, listen, you got to learn more. If we expand your toolbox, you can write. So as I, continued to study music just on the side with different professors, I was gaining more tools. This awesome opportunity to play at graduation happened. I had people approach me wanting to buy the song. Um, and then from there, I decided to ditch my education degree, I guess, not really, but not teach elementary school, but instead start a music studio and just teach kids and keep writing. And by having a home studio, which is what I'm in right now, it allowed me to have more time to write. So I wrote, I ended up submitting one of my songs to the church music submission, which is kind of like the church's music contest. And I won first place. And so I was like, maybe I'm kind of good at this. And then at that point, a producer that I had worked with, I had told him, like, hey, if you ever have people that need help writing, send them my way. Like, I'd love to be a ghostwriter too. I'm a singer. I was classically trained singing as well, but I don't think I'm like the most amazing singer. So I've never wanted to be like a Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande. I just don't have the voice, but I would love to write for people who do have the voice. So he started sending me a ton of clients. And then I was able to like build my website and do more songs I've actually done music for podcasts. I've done it for like commercials. I've done it for just independent artists. And then my biggest project that I just finished was doing Dr. Fogg's Tiny Habits album. So that's that's the nutshell version, although it was a, decent sized nutshell. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. I love your humility because you're
Thank
like,
you.
oh, I'm 8 years old and I won $200. Maybe I'm good at this. I'm, I wrote this song for my fifth graders, but I got asked to play at a university ceremony. Maybe I'm good at this.
Well, it does feel that way. Like, it's so interesting, and maybe you feel this way with, your passions, but music is just it's so fun for me that it never feels like hard or like work. So when I just come up with this cute little song and they wanna perform it, I'm like, "Whoa, really? Like, are you sure? Like, is it that good?" It's so weird in some ways because it's just something I love to do.
That is so amazing. I actually was able to, I did an interview recently it's part of another event in October, but it was all about how we doubt ourselves and overcoming that. And
Yes.
a hard truth that I've had to face in my life recently is that I am the one who tells myself no the most often. I am the one who gets in my own way of achieving what I want to do, what I want to be. And then when I say that I can't do something, I'm actually saying God can't do it.
Mm, I love that.
And it's so there's just certain things happening, I mean, life is always unpredictable, but there's just certain things right now where I'm just like I have to push myself into that discomfort zone because I'm
Yeah,
just like otherwise I'm just going to be where I am forever and I know I shouldn't be. I know I need to be changing in other ways.
totally. Well, it's back to that trust thing. The trust thing that we talked about at the beginning. Like it might not be a wilderness, but it might be pushing you to do, this podcast or whatever. And it might seem fun, but also, am I qualified? Can I do this? Why me?
I think everybody can probably resonate with this. Like
Totally.
we all hold ourselves back and don't want to believe the good that others see in us or that the Lord sees in us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's imposter syndrome.
Oh, 100%. Why do we do
Yeah.
that?
I know. I mean, even doing that last album I just did, like, I'm in this room with these incredible musicians who most of them have gotten their degree in music. They have so much more experience than me, and yet I'm the writer. And I'm like, "What am I doing here? I'm the only girl. I'm, like, half these people's age." Like, do I know what I'm doing?" It's totally a real feeling, and you just gotta, like, push it out and go to work. Just push it out.
How have you felt the Lord using you and your music to help others, uplift others? Like, I'm sure you've had amazing experiences where you see that come into play.
Totally. Yep, I have 2 stories that come to mind right when you ask that. The first story is when I first put my own song out as, like, me. It wasn't for my 5th graders, it wasn't, it was like a Sarah song, and I had just suffered my first miscarriage and was absolutely devastated. I didn't have any kids yet, so I didn't have any distractions. It was just, like, me and my emptiness. And so the first thing I did is I went to the piano and I wrote a song about it called Forever Yours. And I just wrote down everything that I was feeling, put it to music, um, and it just kind of stayed in my notebook for a while. And about couple years later, I remember I was like eating lunch and I just had this overwhelming feeling that I needed to get that song out there. And I'm like, okay, well, I've never released music before. I didn't know how to distribute music. I didn't know how to even put it on Facebook. And so I just like did the best recording that I could with like my little microphone and my piano. And, on Facebook, I didn't know how to just do audio. So it was like a black screen. And I just wrote my experience like, a couple years ago, I suffered a miscarriage and I just felt like I should put this out there. Well, at the time, I had actually just gone through a divorce and I was dating my now husband, but his mom is this incredible photographer. And she was stalking me, of course, because her son was dating me. And she ran into that and she called my now husband and was like, "Hey, talk to me about this song that Sarah put out. Like, what is this?" And long story short, she was like, "We need to do a project with this. I want to interview people who have gone through this. Let's make this like a video. Let's make this a passion project. Let's get this song recorded in a studio." So I went back to my studio in Utah, got it professionally done. And then she put together this beautiful tribute. She had so many women come, and I mean, we can put a YouTube link on your podcast if you want, but it's just women holding signs of things that they have been through in pregnancy loss. And we shared it, and it got like thousands and thousands and thousands of views on Facebook. And I had so many people reaching out, like, "Thank you so much. Like, I have wanted to listen to something that would help me through this. Thank you for the validation. Thank you for putting this into words."
When you feel that soft, warm breeze on a chilly day, when you see that stranger smile in a thoughtful way, when the rainbow peaks after the storm, you know it's me. Oh, it's me. I'm forever yours.
Such a huge response to it. I think it helped the women who were in it. We had a balloon release when the video was launched. It helped my mother-in-law and I bond. But just all in all, it's one that to this day, I still get people telling me that song was so special. I just had a meeting with actually it was a Steinway. I don't know what her actual role is, but she works at a Steinway store. And she was looking at my profile for some stuff and she talked about Forever Yours. She was like, "I feel like you wrote that for me." So that's one of the most special times that I felt like the Lord was using me for my music. The second one was my little 3-year-old daughter. When I was pregnant with her, I had gone through IVF. We had a really hard time getting her here, and, I thought that was the hardest part, was the IVF journey. But sadly, when she was 17 weeks, she got a diagnosis that she had a congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot, and that she would most likely need open heart surgery when she was born. And so she was born, she did okay for a while, but then she was rushed to the ER and she had to have emergency open heart surgery. We spent about 2 weeks in the hospital, and the whole time it sounds weird because here I am, this mom with a baby, she was 8 weeks old in the hospital, but I kept thinking, like, "Film this, film this, film," and I'm like, "What? This is not," but you have a lot of downtime in the hospital when your baby's just laying there. So I'm like, "Okay." So I just was, like, getting little shots with my iPhone and then, like, her and I, and it felt really weird. And I even had like a nurse. I'm like, "Can you film us walking to the operation room?" She's like, "Sure." But then once she got fixed and we got her home, I took a couple more videos of her happy and healthy. I made a video and wrote a song called Aria, and it's all about her story. And her story on YouTube has like, I think 105,000 views. And again, it was one of those things where people were like, I needed to see this. I needed hope. It was such a huge outreach and a connection with so many people.
You shine bright like a star. Hold the light when darkness surrounds you. Twinkling high in the sky. Higher each night. Higher each and every time. You don't let what's broken define you. You make beautiful art from your scars. My shooting star, yeah. My shooting star, yeah.
I think that I have so many more stories like that. Those are my personal ones, but working with other artists on other projects, whether it be for weddings, funerals, loved ones, I cannot tell you how much I feel God in my heart, in my hand, writing words. It's insane. Like, it's the closest connection to him that I feel is through my music. It's so special, and that's why it's always so surprising to me when it does well, because I really don't feel like it's me. It never feels like I'm the one writing it.
What strikes me about your stories is that you are so willing to be vulnerable and share your deepest hurts, your deepest pains, but simultaneously, you're also sharing your beautiful music.
Thank you.
And I just think that that's just so poignant.
Thank you. I think that's where the best music comes, is from pain, from vulnerability.
Well, um I had, browsed through some of your stuff on YouTube, and it was Aria, right? Was
Yes.
that video, and oh my goodness, I'm going to warn listeners that if they click that link and hop over there, you will be touched, you will be moved.
Thank
And
you.
it is so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, she's my little warrior.
And she's doing well now?
She's great. She has another open heart surgery that she's going to need in a couple months. She's 3 years old, so we're not looking forward to that, but that should be her last one. She's so brave. She's so strong, and she's a fighter for sure.
So what are your goals? Like, where do you want your music career to go? Like, what's the dream?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, the dream is what I'm doing. Like, I love what I do. There's times when I'm like, is this it? Like, am I done? Like this album that I just finished. I'm like, that was a huge project. Is that gonna lead anywhere, or was that kind of like the gold pot at the end of the rainbow, you know? But I've learned it goes back to what we talked about. We're just trusting the story. We're trusting the next chapter. When I've had, quieter months and not as many projects going on, my kids have needed me more. My calling, I'm actually a young women's president. My calling has heated up. And so I'm like kind of grateful. And then when those kind of, die down a little bit, all of a sudden I get a really cool project. It's not that I don't push or put myself out there for projects or trying to get clients. I'm always trying to do that. But I really trust Heavenly Father with like it will fall on my lap when it's supposed to. It'll come when it's supposed to. I actually just had another musician just reach out to me last month saying, "Hey, do you want to write a song together?" And it was like the perfect timing. I'm like, "Yes, let's do it." And we've been doing it and we're almost done and we're working on a music video for it. So that's the dream, to just keep doing it, keep making stuff as we go through life over here.
So, what kind of genres does your music encompass? Clearly, you've
Mhm.
got the children's down, and you've got some gospel, very heartfelt. But what else do you
Yes.
like to write in?
I really like pop. I really do. I've got singer-songwriter. I don't really have a specific bubble. There's stuff that I don't do. I could write country. I could maybe try to do a country accent, but I don't consider myself a country artist. Um, Despite my husband's love for rock and roll, I'm not a rock person. I have had a rapper in my children's music, it was appropriate. And I wrote the rap, but I myself will not be rapping anytime soon. But yeah, I don't limit myself to a genre. It's kind of like, what does the project need? And I try to just do it. Because at the end of the day, it's chords and lyrics. And then you just make it, you produce it to what you want it to be.
Is there a time where you had a really big hurdle where you did feel stuck, where it didn't come as naturally and easily as you would like, and you're like, how do I navigate through this?
Oh my gosh, yes. I've had that actually happen a fair amount of times. There is a song. Well, this happened in 2 times on the album, but there's a children's song called "Twilight" on this new album. The album's called Habit Songs for Kids, by the way, for anybody who wants to listen to it. It's called "Twilight," and my client, Doctor Fogg, was like, "I really want a song that just kinda helps kids wind down." It's not a lullaby, they're not listening to it while they're going to sleep. They're listening to it as we're getting ready for bedtime. Like, how do we calm the brain down? How do we calm the body down? Just kind of getting to that relax mode. We're not worrying about anything. And so I probably have like 6 pages in my notebook of like different ideas, and just could not think of something. I'd send it to him. He's like, it sounds too much like a lullaby. Send him a different one. No, this is too upbeat. Send a different one. I don't really like the words. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I think for me, when I start focusing too much on what does he want, what does my client want, I lose my artistic ability a little bit. So I had to tell myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take him out of the picture and I'm just going to write it as if I was writing it for my own kids. Like, what would I do? Okay, well, I love metaphors. So I'm like, nature. What's a nature thing? And so I'm like going on Google, like, give me nature metaphors. And I thought I saw twilight. And I'm like, ooh, twilight. That's like when the sun's down, right? But you still have kind of the glow. I'm like, this is good. So I started kind of writing this Twilight song. And I was like, we're not thinking about the client. We're just thinking about our kids here, and it just kind of flowed out. But this is after like 2 or 3 weeks of drafting. And sure enough, I sent it and he was like, this is it. I love it. So that was a big one of just, you just get writer's block sometimes. It helps to look at artwork, listen to poetry, listen to books, just anything that can give your imagination ideas. But writer's block is a real thing.
So, what if somebody listening has this long burning dream to start a music career or start, be, you know, becoming a singer songwriter for other artists? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I teach a lot of high schoolers that have this dream. So I have an answer for you. The biggest thing that I think for step 1 is learn the piano. Guitar's great too. I think piano has more variety. You can do more with it, but learn the piano, learn your chords, listen to other songs and try to figure out the chord progressions. Because the more you can play on the piano, the more you can create. And that's where I credit a lot to my classical training. I'm not, you know, using Mozart in my original songs, but the music ideas that Mozart created, I'm able to kind of use or twist and make my own. So that's what I would say is start there and then any kind of voice lessons you can get. I think even if you're born a good singer, there's so many tools and techniques out there that help you grow stronger. And then third would just be like write from your heart and learn basic formatting for songs. I've had a lot of new people come to me for songwriting help and it just kind of is this long like line of just word. I'm like, "Okay, let's learn what a verse is. Let's learn what a chorus is. Let's learn about like, what makes it catchy." Um so yeah, I think those would be my things is learn an instrument. I recommend piano, get some voice help if you can, and then learn about the songwriting format and write from your heart.
I'm kind of curious about you mentioned Boise State. So,
Yeah.
how long did you live in Idaho?
So I moved there when I was 16. I only lived there for 2 years. My parents still live in Eagle. But yeah, it was just when I was in high school there, I would go his name was Del Parkinson, and I would go to his office at BSU and just take my piano lesson and then leave. But yeah, I never went to BSU, but I went there for piano. Idaho's great. I love visiting.
Do you get to come up a lot?
Yeah, since a lot of my family still lives there. So we actually were just there for my littlest brother's wedding reception. And every time I visit, I'm like, why do I live in a desert? I need to live here. Why do I live where there's rocks and dust? I need grass.
You're like, I need some color. My son is serving a mission in Southern California, and whenever we do our video calls, he's like, it's so green.
Yes, I know. It's true. You don't know what you got till it's gone. It's a true thing. We have turf in our backyard. Turf. My kids don't even know what real grass is. They've barely seen snow. It's really sad.
No immediate prospects of migrating to an area with four seasons anytime soon.
I mean, I would love to, but since I am divorced, my oldest guy's dad lives here. So until he's 18, I can't move anywhere, not yet. So, but one day I want to. A couple of my music friends want me to move to Utah, but I would pick Idaho first.
I might be biased, but yeah, I like Idaho.
Yeah.
Um, so that's another thing that is a huge painful experience that I know people have gone through is a divorce.
Hmm.
I mean, you've mentioned music with your miscarriage and your daughter's heart issues. How did
Hmm.
music help you get through that particular challenge?
That's a good question, and I have an interesting answer. Um, I mean, for sure, when I got divorced, since songwriting is kind of my journal, there was a lot of songs there. There was songs when I started dating again and kind of going through that fun phase, but there was also songs from the heartache and the grief. You have these expectations when you get married, and I was married in the temple and, waited for what I thought was the right guy, and paths went different ways. And I don't know, I just felt like music is kind of my best friend that's always been there. And specifically songwriting in this case, it was a really good handhold for me. And there's songs that I've written about it that will never see the light of day, but they helped me process. And ultimately, that was the best gift, that music gave me. It was just the ability to process what had happened. And yeah, that's that.
I love that Heavenly Father speaks to us in our language.
Hmm.
like for you, it is definitely music, not
Yes.
only for your own comfort and well being, but how you can bless others with it too.
Yes. Yes, 100%. I tell my students that all the time. I'm like, when you don't wanna practice piano, when it stinks, I cannot testify enough the gift music is for others along with yourself. I think I mentioned it before, but, like, some of my coolest experiences has been playing at funerals for people I don't know. And they'll tell me things like, "This was their favorite primary song, can you make an arrangement out of it?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I just feel I don't know how to describe it, just this spirit of this person that I never knew, that I never met, but by learning their favorite primary song and creating this arrangement, like, I can just feel kind of who they were. And it's happened a few times where I didn't know the person. I make the arrangement, I play it at the funeral, and there are talks given or, people come up to me that are like, "Did you know that this person loved, this particular song and somehow that was intertwined in my arrangement." Like little things like that I would have never put together because I didn't know this person. And yet the music, that person was there. That person was in the arrangement. It's really powerful.
My father in law passed away last November, and so we're putting a funeral together, and we wanted a musical number. And a few of us in the family could have done it, but we're like, we are not in a situation to rehearse, prepare. We've, you know, emotionally, we're busy doing a lot of other things right now. I asked one friend because she knows everybody in Nampa, I swear. And I said, will you help me find somebody to do a musical number? And she
Yeah.
did. And in fact, her name is also Sarah. And she was one of my earlier episodes. It was a
Oh.
while ago, but she shared a story in her interview that she was a convert. And for some reason, her family just didn't do funerals. They
Hmm.
just got cremated, and they didn't,
Interesting.
really have that, closure. And so she sang Consider the Lilies at my father in law's funeral. She didn't know us, she'd never met anybody in our family before. But she said just participating in that way helped her kind of feel a lot of closure that
Mm.
she had been missing from other relationships in her life.
Interesting. That's really powerful. It's a weird, I don't like, this goal sounds really weird. So I'm sorry if you can edit this out if you need to. But I have this weird, I'm not even going to call it a goal because it sounds bad, but this thing where I'm like, I want to attend at least one funeral each year because I think every time I go, it just brings perspective. And I feel like you feel closer to God. You remember what's important. Music at funerals are more powerful. People's best traits come out. You remember this incredible person. You learn about this person, whether or not you knew them. There's always stuff that comes out there like, oh, really? I didn't know grandma did that. And so it's like this thing that I'm like, I want to attend one funeral at least per year just because of that. I like just being a musician and having gone to so many, I never leave feeling down or regretting that I went. Like I'm always so happy that I went, even if it's really sad.
So in our community last week, there was actually a death, an accidental death of a woman who had been in our ward. And the only reason she's not in our ward is because they split the ward boundaries.
Mm.
Um, but it rocked our community, and I went to her services on Friday. And you're right, it made me think a lot. She was my age,
Oh,
you know,
it's so
and
sad.
overall it was beautiful and uplifting to
Mhm.
see how her family honored her and all the people that were there to express their love and the support. But it made me think, what do I want people to say about me when
Yeah.
I leave this life?
Yeah.
And it really made me think, is it because like, oh, Amy did that podcast. Remember when she did that podcast? Or,
Yes.
like this or that. And I was like, I want people to I want the first thing people think of is that Amy loved and believed in her savior, Jesus Christ. And I'm just like, what do I have to do in my life? Like what corrections or adjustments or what have you do I need to do so that that's like what people know about me?
Yeah, to be known for that. Yeah, I know. It definitely that's the perspective that it brings though. Like, what do I want to be known for? What legacy am I leaving behind? You know? Have I done any good in the world today?
Absolutely. Well, it was actually a very interesting weekend because a funeral service on Friday, and then I went down to Utah. Saturday morning, there was a baby blessing for my great
Wow.
niece, and
Interesting,
then
yeah.
just a couple hours after that was a wedding for another niece.
You
And
had like all
so
these events, all these milestone moments.
precisely, and I was just like, I kind of thought of it like there's this trifecta of milestones of the plan of salvation. Because
Hmm.
here we have brand new little baby. It's only a few months old, and my young nephew and his wife, they're just
Yes.
starting out, and they're just like the happiest parents with this beautiful baby. And then my niece, who she and her new husband starting their eternal family, and kind of the obstacles that they had to work through to start their life together.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, through all the ups and downs, we really have to remember the end.
Yes. Absolutely.
What is so ironic about life is that we know how it ends. We
Yes.
just have no idea what's happening between now and then.
And that's where that trust comes in. You know, it's funny that we're talking about funerals. The song that I'm working on that I told you we're like in video, we're talking to videographers right now is actually called Heaven is Near. And it's I wanted to do, speaking to what you just said, I feel like in my life I've had a couple tragic unexpected deaths in the past couple years, just completely unexpected young people. Um and as adults, it's hard, it hurts, it's not fair. And a lot of times we can read scriptures or find music that kind of soothes us. But what song is out there for a child to help them process? And I was thinking about that, when I actually had a young woman of mine pass away last year, and totally unexpected. It was a terrible accident. She has younger siblings. And I'm like, what do you sing at home? What do you sing at primary when you're trying to process this and you're 5 years old? And then the other tragic death was my baby niece. And I have other nieces and nephews that are young. And what are they singing at primary when they're learning about the plan of salvation? We know we'll see Jesus again. Do we talk about where our loved one went? And it's been a really interesting process to write about this kind of from the perspective of a child. But I got the lyrics down. I actually am working on this one with Shauna Edwards, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm really hopeful that it can help children and it can help families. And one of the lyrics that I put in there, because I kind of did it from the approach of questions, like, where did you go? Can you still watch over me? And at the end of the chorus, I picture Jesus calming your fears. He comforts me and dries my tears. If he is there and if he is here, then heaven must be near. And I loved writing this, and it's been helpful for me too. But I'm hopeful that it can help kids as well as they process.
Well, and what a gift to give families who are dealing with that, because we know how Jesus felt about little children.
Mhm. Yeah.
And giving those dear ones a sense of comfort in a very confusing and traumatic time.
Yeah.
What a beautiful gift.
Thank you. I hope that it is. It's been on my mind for a while. I just didn't want to do it alone. And Shauna
Yeah.
is an incredible writer and she's experienced. And so when she approached me to write a song together, I was like, yes, and can you help me with this idea? And she's been such a mentor to me in helping me write it. So I hope that it is a gift. I want it to be.
So, Sarah, I have just enjoyed talking with you and just learning about the places you've been, not physically, but
Yeah,
the places you've been emotionally, and how you, like I mentioned earlier, how you've used some of these trials coupled with your beautiful gifts
thank
to
you.
create what's my legacy going to be. What's awesome about you is you can just go on YouTube and search you and it's all there. So where can listeners find your music?
First off, thank you. Thank you for your compliment. I really appreciate it, Amy, and I love having this opportunity to talk with you. Thank you. I am on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. I do have a couple music videos on YouTube, hopefully, more to come. They're hard to make. People don't always know that. They take a long time. So sorry for not having more, but there are a few on there.
I always wrap up my interviews by asking my guests what covenant joy means to them and how do they find covenant joy in everyday living?
So I thought about this question, and the answer that comes to mind for me, and it's one of my life mantras, but as I continue to have this relationship with my Savior and with my Heavenly Father, I always have this come to mind. I trust the next chapter of my life because I know the author. And maybe you've heard that quote before. But that oh, no? Yeah, that
No,
is, like that's my favorite, and that is what covenant joy is for me. It's knowing that I can trust the next chapter of my life because I know the author.
that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, your time. I'm so excited to like put links in the show notes and when on my social media posts so just other people can hear just the delightful that seems so
Thank you.
incomplete to say they're just delightful songs, but they will hear you
Thank
and
you.
hear your testimony. And I know not all of like your Dr. Fogg's album, those aren't Christian, those aren't Jesus songs,
No, they're
but
not.
But though you absolutely had to have, like when you said you wrote Twilight, you had to have some kind of in tune. You had to be
Oh,
in
100%.
tune.
Yes, guidance.
Hmm.
That opportunity was a huge opportunity for me. It was one of the biggest opportunities I've had. So I was on my knees a lot during that album because I didn't wanna mess it up. So yeah, thank you.
What a gift to spend time with Sara Cenatiempo today. Her faith and her music are such a reminder that the Lord can use even our hardest chapters to bring light to others. If this episode uplifted you, please share it with a friend and leave a quick rating or review. It really helps more listeners discover the show. And don't forget, the Divine Worth Summit is coming in October, and you'll find the link to register right in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.
God is good
All the time.
all the time.
God is good.